All right, welcome back to Last Week Chopped Up. I'm here with my boy Jeremy from sunny Southern California in our, going in December, maybe not so sunny. I don't know how it is out there. How you doing out there, Jeremy?
Yeah, it is not sunny at all. There's actually some little bit of drizzle. It does occasionally rain in Southern California. Is
Yeah.
a better name for the song. So having a very, very light drizzle today. But if it starts coming down harder, might have to take this work from home advantage, get a little midday rain nap in. It's not a lot of opportunity. I know you have plenty of opportunity to do it. So.
Oh yeah, it out here. So like, interestingly enough, when it's like misting or drizzling, the best weather forecast is this Dutch weather app called Bow and Radar, but it does not consider mist or drizzle rain. There's actually a separate one called like drizzle radar, we had to get used to it. We look at it like, it's not going to rain. We'll be out like, it's for sure raining on us, and it's cold. It's like 34 degrees. So any amount of rain is freezing cold. And so it's like we call it Dutch raining. It's almost constantly doing that out here. So yeah, that drizzle is part of our absolute daily life. You just walk outside and your whole body condenses with the water. But you got a little bit. All right. Well, what else is new out there? So a little drizzle, a little December drizzle post Thanksgiving. How you doing?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I forgot. Trying to think what happened in the last week. Sports ball. Watched a fair amount of that. Went to a bar once or twice. I think it's actually been pretty tame the last couple of weeks since we've done the pod, man. I guess I'm getting boring. Just trying to get to the holidays. Go back to Texas for like a week. So I'm just on the push, wrapping up stuff for work. Get me back to Tejas, and step away from Cali for a bit.
I think we really got to start, like you said, recording the pre-podcast call, because although like 80% of it is probably stuff we wouldn't want up on the World Wide Web, not because we're saying anything terrible, but just because we're talking a little bit of shit about people, not in a bad way, right? But just kind of like, well, these people are full of shit and these people are full of shit. But I don't know how much of that can we put. How much of that we put on the podcast? I'm not really sure.
I mean, some of it was generic and not a very specific person who, if you heard this, it is exactly talking about you. So maybe we remove that part and then just let everything else rock,
100%. I remember, but no, I remember that us talking about work. Often we start talking about work and some of the similar trends. But speaking of tech, you put in the chat about DAOs, and I know we do like to get into tech, which is DAOs. What is it stand for? Distributed Autonomous Organization.
I think anonymous distributed. I
think it's autonomous, but
okay.
Notes being
it's not autonomous. It's humans. There's no. Is it?
Well, autonomous being that it.
You're right. You're correct. You're correct. Why would I doubt you? You Googled this, of course.
I did Google it, but I think it's autonomous, not like autonomous driving, but like the organization sort of is self-directing in a sense, or like, it's from the community. But let's say it's a grandiose title. We talked about NFCs when that was the hypiest stuff out there, which, by the way, I saw that there's the first ever NFC museum opening in Seattle, or at least an exhibit, which I guess they're trying to be on the cutting edge, which kind of struck me as like, I don't know how to feel about this. On the one hand, cool, but what am I really seeing? Like, I could replicate that museum here. I don't know, without the digital signatures. Like, how does that sit with you, NFC museum?
That sounds silly. It's like, all right, here's just an exhibit.
Yeah.
It's an exhibit. Like, the ownership of this is irrelevant. I don't know who may or may not own another piece of art in a regular non-NFT gallery. Why would this be any different? But kind of on that front, there's a thing I did see there. Someone selling. Have you heard of NBA Top Shot?
Yeah. They're one of the first big NFTs, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So someone's selling like a digital picture frame to show your Top Shot NFTs in the real world. So it's like $300. The frame only works with NFTs, approved NFTs. Yeah. Right now, they just have a partnership with the Top Shot, made by Dapper Labs. Maybe they expanded, but you have to have ownership for the thing to even work. And I'm like, guys, this is just a monitor playing a 8-second clip from a basketball game. Like, you can just put up a YouTube playlist and a monitor and I don't know a Mac, a very cheap computer and do this and it'd be way better. I'm like, boy, this world is nuts.
Dude, I was watching the NFL, I think last weekend, and it was a commercial. You probably seen it. It was like 20,000 limited edition NFTs, this game, like tickets, but not tickets. And I'm like, so you're just watching and like, to me, like I cannot get my head around it, Jeremy. Like there are, and in economics, you have normal goods, you use it, you consume it. You have luxury goods, which are, let's say partly to get the impression of like a Mercedes, like the social approval of having a luxury good and so on and so forth. It's definitely a different kind of goods. I can't get my head around a good like this. I just can't get my head around why you be watching and say, well, I want to give up $20 to get this digital signature of this ticket of this game I'm watching at home on television. I can't get my head around it, Jerry.
Yeah, it's I mean, again, it's every value is what someone's willing to pay for. Right?
Oh, for sure.
So, but to me, I view it as these are like long-term, I don't know, picture books or collectibles. Like the one benefit of blockchains is that we assume and think they will go into the future in a way as centralized. Let's say Pinterest. Maybe Pinterest goes away, or maybe Microsoft buys Pinterest. It's like, we're going to change this up and we're recreating boards or whatever, destroy some previous work, right? We're on a blockchain of, hey, I got my whatever clipping or my, ticket of this game. And like, all right, theoretically, as long as this continues to operate, I'll have it in the future. So to me, that's the only upside I could see of putting the stuff on a chain. Again, I don't know why you'd want to have a Lions versus whatever NFT ticket. That sounds dumb to me, but if you are interested for some reason, I kind of get why you want it on a chain and not just Ticketmaster's own database.
Yeah, I
just in case, I don't know, 100 years from now, Ticketmaster doesn't exist. I don't know.
I can squint and see it, but like you said, like I think you talked about this one, which was like the example you just gave for concerts where you say, okay, you go to the concert and you add $5 to the concert ticket and you get an NFT, which then goes into a digital collection book, which you like. And it's really like the keepsake, and you can only get this if you were in the, but like at one point in time, I wrote down every concert I've ever been to and I had a spreadsheet, and then I lost that spreadsheet. And I guess I would like to have that spreadsheet back, but like just writing it down was enough for me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like
I think for a long time, man, I had like a shoebox, and I put all the tickets from concerts and I think movie tickets, sports events. I just threw it in the shoebox. I think that shoebox is somewhere in storage. I don't know what the hell I would do with any
Yeah,
I don't know that I went to a USC football game 7 years ago. Like I don't know. I went to a Drake concert, but kept them. So there's something there. I don't know. Humans like to catalog their adventures.
Yeah,
so
I mean, you can take a picture at the concert, put it in your Google Photos, and it'll remind you every year. So I mean, there's other ways you can do this. You know what I mean? Without forking over money. But I don't. On the one hand, the fact that this explosion of these offerings makes sense to me because, it's pure profit. Why not? On the other hand, and I understand the idea that you really only need a very niche audience to make a product like this work. Like Beanie Babies were on every what was it in commercial shopping channel when we were in the late 90s, and
like
QVC and stuff, and it was always on Beanie Babies, and you'd say, I've never met anyone that bought them, but they don't need that many people buying them because they're selling like little Beanie Babies for actual money. And so everything is pure profit. I get that, but I'm still long run. I will be shocked if this is like a mainstream thing, but I've been wrong before on these things. But DAOs, digital autonomous organizations. Now tell us about what the heck these are, because this is now, I think you got to hear it here first. And last week chopped up, I think they're going to be kind of like NFTs all over the news, potentially for different reasons. So what's a DAO, Jeremy?
Yeah, so obviously you got the name right and I don't. And I think as far as what they are, everyone's still trying to figure it out. So a reason I mentioned it to you, which I assume you've Googled, but people might have heard of, is the Constitution DAO. And I'll just say DAO.
Yeah.
I assume it's that, but
Yeah,
whatever.
why
Correct
not?
later if it's not. But there was a copy of the Constitution going up on auction. I think there's only like, in the teens versions of copies that exist.
Yep.
So I think it started off as a kind of meme joke on the internet. And then folks just kind of decided, hey, can we bid on this and try to win a copy or own a copy of the Constitution? So long story short, a DAO was formed. They were taking Ethereum as the currency of note to transact. We'll come back to the issues with that, but essentially you can send in your Ethereum to this organization, and in the contract itself, or the contracts, they try to write it so we can only use this
Yep.
for getting the Constitution. And if we do not purchase the Constitution, it goes back into a different wallet, and you can get refunds of what you've contributed.
Yep.
So they ended up raising, I think, like 47 million, but after what you got to hold for taxes and fees and yada yada, Sotheby's holding, it's like they could be able to think 43 million. And I think it was the first time that Sotheby's used cryptocurrency as like proof of value or worth to allow you to bid, because they were bidding against very, very rich people whose worth was already verified. So they ended up only losing the bid by like, I think a couple 100,000. So the guy wanted, I think, run some hedge fund or something, and he bought it for 43.2 million. But it was kind of a, hey, this is crazy. A group of people within 2 weeks just kind of decided, let's try to own a copy of the Constitution. Though, who would own the Constitution and what your contribution actually got with you is quite interesting, because no individual would, it's not like you own 10,000.
Exactly.
So I want you to cut my piece off and send it to me. Like, that's not it. And what you were getting for your donation was a yet to be distributed token, which would give you the right to vote on upcoming decisions about the Constitution. I guess mostly where to display it. And, if we put, Justin contributed XX35 on a scrolling banner above it or something, like you'd vote on that. And to me, that's when it gets kind of weird with DAOs, because it kind of sounds like just a regular
Corporate
business or organization.
Shareholders vote. It's a company.
Yeah, I got shareholders, or again, we're a nonprofit, and we each have voting rights based on whatever criteria we want.
Yeah.
So what it allows you to do is unclear, other than maybe being able to operate fast in a very loosely regulated space, in a way that maybe you couldn't with, traditional things. Like if you wanted to gather this money on PayPal from all these folks, maybe like, this seems like a scam, so we're going to hold this money. You can't bid.
Yeah.
Right? It might just be like, seems like something nefarious is happening. So I get that part of it of, hey, but that's just generally crypto. Hey, it's still right now very unregulated, so you can do this stuff. But I don't necessarily get what will make these different than a normal organization, because this, again, a lot of the specifics of or if you're going to interact with things in the physical world, it really just looks like a normal organization, because you're like, all right, well, someone has to hold the Constitution and own it, and who's going to do that?
Right.
And and what rights are we giving to them, and what contract do we actually have that a lawyer reviewed, and yada yada yada. So that to me is when you start to be like, well, why did this need to be decentralized? Why does this need new tech? Why are we doing it this way? So I think it'll be a hot space. I have another friend, he's in a gaming one, and he has no idea what it'll do. I think it cost him like $200 to, on there when they're minting whatever NFT they're minting to get in. And he's like, I'm doing this just to understand how this could possibly work. I feel like the $200 is gone, but I'm generally intrigued of make this space make sense to me. So putting some, getting in the game a little bit, putting a little of his own money in there to try to understand it. So that's how I understand DAOs right now. Your thoughts, questions?
So it's interesting to me to think about. One, my reaction is similar to yours, that it feels like a structure that already exists, but outside the regulatory environment that those structures must adhere to, which then sounds a lot like the cryptocurrency arc overall, which is this is a concept that already exists in cryptocurrency, the case of currency, and the concept has always exist with a central assurance of value, either a gold standard or a fiat standard, where your sort of the value of the currency is your trust in the central bank not to print a ton of it. And if you live in a country like Argentina, where they print 20% of the monetary base every year, and there's inflation of 20% every year, you invest less in that currency because it's worth less because of the fiat. The deal between you and the central agency is been broken in some ways. So it feels like the same. Similarly, it, in this case, feels more decentralized. But as you said, there's many corporate structures that are decentralized by nature. Corporations are meant to be decentralized, with shareholders having voting power. And that's the whole nature of a corporation, is they're meant to be a decentralized power structure, unlike a limited liability partnership, for example, that's not meant to be. But what I find most interesting is this idea of contracts. Everything I read was like, we rely on smart contracts, which I'm an economist. And the funny thing about economics is, when you first learn economics, they talk about how contracts will solve everything. So I don't know, have you heard of the Coase theorem in economics, Jeremy?
I have not.
The Coase theorem is this guy, Ronald Coase, law professor, economics professor at the University of Chicago back in the day. And it says, for cases of market externalities, so the coal power plant next to the neighborhood polluting, the Coase theorem says it doesn't matter. What matters is you assign property rights. If the power plant has the right to pollute, or the people have the right to clean air, under the Coase theorem, in both cases, they'll work out a deal. If the people have the right to clean air, the power plant will work out some deal where they pollute the air somewhat and give them compensation for the polluted air. And if the power plant has the right to pollute, the people will work out some way to collectively act and pay the power plant to clean up their act a little bit to the optimal point in both cases. And in practice, this never happens because we know that bargaining doesn't work this way. If you assign a property right to a firm, it's very hard for a large group of people to actually organize to make a bargain with you. If you assign it to a large group of people, it's hard for the firm to group that people. But generally, it works a little better if you assign it to the group, because then you have a forcing function for the right. And so, like you said, as soon as you get a little down the track, you're like, okay, in theory, that sounded great. Coase theorem sounded great. But in practice, bargaining dynamics mean, and here in the same thing, in theory, smart contracts sound great, but someone's going to have to walk in the building and take the contract. And there's no way to write a cryptographic contract around that. And so to me, it just feels like what we see in the cryptocurrency space. It's mimicking a structure that already exists outside of the regulatory environment. And the question will be, will those regulatory environments pop up, in which case it's no longer that cool. Maybe it solves some invoicing problem of money, but Kickstarter sounds a lot like this. It's just, different, right? So I don't know.
Funny you mentioned Kickstarter. I saw an article yesterday. They are starting another company, a subsidiary, which they haven't named yet, but they wanted to get this information out before they got a name, with the interest in cryptocurrency, and they're going to make a decentralized backend, essentially, so they can mimic Kickstarter's functionality. And once they stand up this functionality, they will transition Kickstarter's backend from their current centralized whatever system they use to this new company's decentralized platform. And then the new company would also license it out to others if they wanted to make their own version, or do similar actions. This makes no sense to me. I have no idea the upside of saying we have a system currently that works, and we're going to make a new one and replace it for no apparent reason. Like, I think you could just as easily consume cryptocurrency in your current system and keep it centralized. So, yeah, even with, things like you said, Kickstarter, even they're trying to get in the space, which to me still just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, what the benefit is of taking a currently functioning product and moving it to a decentralized blockchain database. Just because.
I don't know. Usually in cryptography, you ask the question, where does the trust lie? Because you often have a trusted party in cryptographic situations, right? So if you think of this example you gave, I would ask the question, where does the trust lie? Because the trust would maybe, for instance, not lie in the fact that if the good wasn't purchased, the money is returned, because that's something that we can put into a contract in that in a consensus way we can agree upon potentially. But then when the good has to be going retrieved and done something with, in some sense, the founding initial group, there has to be trust in those people. Just like in a corporation, although those shareholders can vote, the board of governors and the CEO and so forth ultimately are trusted parties. It doesn't work without those people acting in the best interest of the whole. In both cases, I think the trust still rests on those leaders. It's a way to form a group, but this idea that it's autonomous in a way that's sort of self-steering, I think oversells it a bit for a lot of real world cases, because you simply can't write a contract that can be executed within the confines of the system. You can imagine some contracts could be, right? But this one it can't. I still think the trust still lies with a small group of people. And that is, a lot of times you see this in cryptographic solutions, that the trust still lies with there's still a trusted party. Whereas Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general, there is not that concept. The trust in effect lies with whoever has 51% of the computing power of the network. And if no one can really amass that much, the trust is really distributed. Here, I don't so much see that. So I don't know. You still, it just feels like a way, maybe a convenient mechanism to form a group like this, to form what looks like a corporation or a trust. And maybe that's an attractive thing for people to do. If tomorrow, Jeremy, you wanted to stand up a corporation or a trust, there'd be a lot of legal loopholes for you to go through. You'd probably have to hire a pretty expensive attorney and so on and so forth. And here you wouldn't. That's kind of cool. So if, you wanted to make a DAO to re-sign Carlos Correa to the Astros to collect money, you could, because then I think
let's help out that ownership.
Right.
I'm sure they wouldn't sell us any bit of the Astros.
So you could, and maybe the trust there would not lie with anyone, because we could all agree if it was re-signed or not legally, and so on and so forth, and we could only vote to release the money if he was holding a piece of paper on camera, and we could do it. So the trust would be decentralized. So maybe there could be cases like this where you don't have to trust anyone because it's so specified in the contract. And it would be kind of interesting if fan groups did this. When I'm on Reddit, everyone's like, if we all, there's 3 million people in Houston, if we all just gave $10, and I'm like, that's not how things work, man. 100% of people don't do shit, but it's kind of interesting.
Those, whatever you're suggesting, if we all gave $10 for, we should definitely be using all that money for something else.
Yeah,
whatever the reason we're raising it for, is probably the first reason to do this. Yeah.
But
man, I think I think we'll see how it comes. Again, different structure for organization. I think if everything is all digital and the things you're to receive or what we're voting on and try to change is also on the blockchain, and that's kind of somewhat in the contract of self-verification on chain completely, maybe there's upside, because of ultimately, like you said, if it's, we got to trust someone that Carlos Correa actually signed. All right, who dat?
Exactly.
Because what if he doesn't? And they go like, nope, he did. We're keeping the money. Yeah. He signed.
That's what I mean. Like, if you actually go through the logic of what buttons got to get pressed, I mean, the world is I could imagine there's some video digital signature of this happening and this happens, and you can kind of contort your brain, but ultimately it feels like there's trust in the system. And that's where I'd say, well, is this really distributed autonomous organization, or is this really a off the books corporation? And that's fine. That corporations are very useful structures, right? Democratizing corporations could be a really cool idea. That could be a really cool idea, but let's not oversell it. So all these things, you can always come to me and I'll always be salty on the new stuff. So I'm salty on it. Sounds like you're interested, skeptical, curious.
I'm interested, just like NFTs, but I think the current applications are like, all right, so you just made a corporation again. Okay, cool. So now this is going to have the most upside if everything remains digital. Yeah. As soon as you need to interact with the real world,
you're trusting.
A lot of the benefits go away, because a lawyer does need to read a contract and sign off on whatever the thing we're actually trying to do or own or change hands, because someone physically has to touch it. And, we need to make sure they don't touch it and then disappear. Yeah. Hey, I got the Constitution and I just am taking it somewhere.
Dude, I'm 1,000% with you. Let's switch gears. World of sports. So it's been a wacky week in sports. Let's lead off. The Oklahoma City Thunder lost by an NBA record. What did they lose by? 72 points?
I think it was 73.
73 points to the Memphis Grizzlies, who are pretty decent, slightly above average team. I know they were missing some players, Jeremy, but tell me how this can happen to lose, to get basically doubled up. How can that happen?
I honestly have no idea. So, the Grizzlies without their best player, the Thunder were without their best player as well, and maybe even their second best player. So the Thunder are, when they have their whole team, they're competitive, right? They might win 40% of their games if everyone was playing, and they try to win. But they're also an interesting team that they are pretty young and play a lot of young players. So their depth isn't necessarily there. So if they get a couple guys that aren't playing, they get bad very fast. But there is bad, and we got beat. And then there's bad that this is the worst loss in NBA history. And as this was going on, one, I had to triple check the score on a few different sites as the game was developing. I'm like, man, they're down by 40. All right. I look back. I'm like, all right, that's 50. I look back. I'm like, all right, this is 60. They were more than doubling them at one point. I'm just texting people like, are you seeing this?
You texted me. You texted me.
Yeah. Because usually, you're beating someone down. It's like, all right, you take your foot off the gas or whatever. And, they come back. You put
in whoever.
But... but the Thunder, they're also getting into their bench, and they're playing guys that never play. I'm sorry, not the Thunder, but the Grizzlies. And they're playing guys that don't play much. And they're like, yo, I'm on the court. I want to get buckets. I don't get it a lot. So they were going hard. Yeah, so then it was, it was just very much a Twitter moment of people like, oh my God, I can't, this is about to be the worst loss in NBA history. I can't believe I'm watching this. So... I don't know, man. I can't imagine, when you go home. I think they had 3 days off until their next game. And I feel there's a situation where it feels better to play sooner than to be sitting with, we have the worst loss in history for 3 days before you can play again. And I can only imagine if you're the coach, what do you say? Or the team president, it's just I don't even have
let's put this behind us. Let's just go forward.
We made history. I guess feel about that how you will, and let's move on and play the Dallas Mavericks. Let's just get on to the next game.
Oh man, we've all had bad days at work, but it's not on national television. Honestly, I woke up. You were like, "Hey, check out that scoreline when you wake up," and I looked at it. I did the same thing. I was like, "That can't. What am I looking at here?" You know what I mean? And then I saw all the articles because, for the listeners out there that aren't huge basketball fans, the Thunder have been amassing draft picks like no one else in history. I think they have so many first-round draft picks, and they've been kind of tanking or being at the bottom of the league for a little bit of time now. And it looks like it's, you texted me, what's the end game in all of this? At a certain point, guys need to see the court. And I saw an article by John Hollinger on The Athletic, who I like, and he was just like, all right, enough is enough. This should never happen. I don't care who's playing or what. These are NBA players. In the World Basketball Championships, when the U.S. plays, some small country, they don't beat them by 75 points. You know what I mean? It's not
this is not Dream Team versus Angola or whatever back in the day.
No, these are guys with a lot of parity. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm actually, the Rockets, of course, we're fans of the Rockets, and they've won a bunch of games straight. And on the message board,
7 straight. They won last night. Beat the Nets. The Nets did not have Durant, but hey, you play your schedule, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking, people on the message boards are like, we got to be tanking at draft picks. I'm like, you know what? I'm still a fan. If these guys are out there winning, I'm here for it. I like that they're winning, and if it costs a draft pick, that's fine. Shoot, who knows? They could make the playoffs. To me, I think it's that tank mentality when you're out there to if the players really know. I don't think the Thunder were out there to lose, by the way. I don't think they're tanking this year, but you have seen teams tank where they win 2 games in a row, then rest all their starters and all that. To me, it must be a really defeating mentality to be like, what are we doing here? This is a contest, it's a game. Could you play in that environment?
Yeah, so I think when I think of tanking is a coaching decision or,
personnel,
organizational decision. A player doesn't tank.
No.
If you're playing, you are trying to do your best and win the game, right? And that's why, as you said, it'll be, hey, the starters aren't playing, or 3 starters aren't playing tonight. Yeah. Because it's if I play I know you're going to try to win this game. Yeah. So I'm going to take that decision away from you and just not play you. Yeah, or you're going to be hurt for the next month. Wink, you're hurt.
Yeah,
Wink.
exactly.
So I think, tanking is all good until you start to get players who you think are actually your future.
Yeah.
Because, I've heard it said many times on some pods being like, hey, if you grow up in a culture of losing all the time and you never learn how to win, when it's winning time, you don't have the muscles and know how to do it. Right? I don't know how to win. You taught me to lose for 4 or 5 years. So I'm used to losing and doing dumb shit. Right? Because, you're just like, you made terrible decisions at the end of the game. It's fine. We're tanking. It's all right.
It's fine. We lost. It's fine.
I think that's the decision point. So, the Thunder have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Looks, pretty
looks awesome
guy,
player.
borderline all-star. They got a deal on Lugans Dort.
Yep.
Lou Dort. I think they signed him for like 4 years for $6 million. Absolute steal. So they've got a decent little base there. And I think you do kind of have to make these decisions of, hey, when you're a talent, but you're not there, you're still learning. And like, okay, it's fine if you lose. Even if we tried to win, we couldn't win. You're not good enough. When they start to kind of figure out how to play, that's kind of the point where I think I'm like, all right, we can't just lose anymore because this person who we think is our franchise leader has to learn to win games for us.
Yeah.
And that has to start as soon as they, quote unquote, start figuring it out. Because if we delay it, that's the perfect way you're going to re-sign this guy because everyone re-signs on your rookie contract. And if he gets good, 2 scenarios. 1, GM, you're fired because it took 6 years until he's good and they start winning. Or 2, he's going to sign, be like, all right, we sucked for 7 years. I'm sick of this. Trade me.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And that's kind of the 2 outcomes. And we're seeing this trying to be avoided in Minnesota right now with like Karl-Anthony Towns. And it's been like, hey, we kind of need to actually win because the NBA is very player friendly and it's always right around the corner for them going, you know what? I'm good. Continue to pay me my $40 million, but I don't want to play for this team. Trade me, please.
Dude,
thank you.
The psychology of being okay with losing, like you said, in the locker room, because like you said, I've seen message boards where a tanking team plays a good team close, misses a couple of free throws late, and then the message board's like, "Thank God we missed." And you imagine the general manager's probably thinking the same thing. I used to coach soccer in college. I think you know that, like little kids, 10 to 14-year-olds, and the parents would always be like, "Hey, we gotta have a balance of emphasis on winning and having fun." And so I always tell the kids, like, hey, winning isn't everything. That's very true. We play clean, blah, blah, blah. But winning is more fun than losing. Let's be very clear, and let's not mince words about this. Winning is fun. Losing is not fun. So, like, winning isn't everything, but it's way more fun than losing. So let's have that mentality. And I coached this one team that they lost. I barely remember this, but they lost every game up until the final game. And it was like the B team versus the A team in the same club. And they're like, we're playing the A team. We can't beat them. I was like, it's 12-year-old girls soccer, man. Anything can happen. I didn't say that, but I'm thinking, anything can happen. And we won. And afterwards, they were like, Coach Justin, you're right. Winning is more fun. Because even when we were losing, I was telling them, winning's more fun. Like, I'm going to be real. I'll always level with you. Winning is more fun. So, like you said, you're a rookie on that squad for 4 years, losing 60 games a year, 70 games a year for 4 years. You're having no fun with that organization, let alone the psychology of maybe losing that killer instinct,
Yeah, it just, you turn on Sports Center or whatever, see yourself get destroyed. And get all right, they're just crushing us in the media for the 4th year in a row that we suck and we lose. I'm like, well, what your record is, you do suck and you lose, right? Like, that to me is that idea that, if you listen to some sports podcasts, the kind of question like, are you a winning player?
Yeah.
Because it's also hard to tell if you're on these teams that lose a lot and you're like, all right, he's putting up good numbers. We think he's good. But, like, if he was on a good team, could you be a top 3 player? Like, are you actually a winning mentality and do winning decisions? Yeah. And it's tough to tell with some folks because there's like, kind of the empty calories, I think.
Barry Sanders.
Good stats, bad team.
Yeah,
and being
exactly.
like, are you just getting up good numbers because your team sucks and you can do whatever you want? And if you're on a good team, you cannot fit well with that structure. So, to me, that's always an interesting concept. There's no real proof point until it's like, all right, we got to put you in a team that doesn't suck and then we'll know. But until then, it's just You know, flip of the coin.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a general manager, you're just hoping the guy's got good fundamentals. I talk to his mama and the people around him. You know, he's got a good heart, still has passion. Like, okay, I guess that's a signal. Go get him.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% with you. Speaking of competitiveness, so I got to put a plug in. The F1 finals is this week. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton are tied in points going in the final race. So whoever gets first, or whoever beats the other guy in the race will win.
Quick question for me. They are not both like Mercedes? Are we Mercedes and Red Bull?
It's Mercedes and Red Bull. Lewis is with Mercedes and Max is with Red Bull. So they're tied. The thing is, while they are tied, Max has won more races than Lewis. So if they somehow both don't finish the race, would be a scenario almost surely they crash each other. Max will win. So Lewis has got to race Max, but Max knows if he takes Lewis out, Max wins. And Max, I'll tell you, has shown in the last 2 races, he's almost taken Lewis out like 4 times because in each of those races, Lewis was behind in points. Lewis has won the last 2 races. So if Max had taken Lewis out, Lewis doesn't catch up. And I'm going to say he's tried to take him out, but he's done things where if Lewis didn't take evasive action, Max would have taken him out. And so this whole week, they've been asking what's going to happen, blah, blah. And Max just came out and said, he's like, I don't think I've done anything wrong. I'm just going to drive aggressive, be my normal self, be me, see what happens. And you're like, okay, like there's going to be drama. So like, I would say if you watch one F1 race, these 2 guys, and Lewis is like, I don't think he's going to go for it. I think he's super calm. I'll predict he's going to prevail, but it's going to be a spicy one, I think, for the F1 finale. So if you catch one F1 race in your life, this might be the one to catch.
Okay, so it is surprising to me to hear that, like, the consideration, hey, will he take Lewis out? Because this is not NASCAR where quote unquote rubbing is racing. No. These are very light cars that I think they generally try to not touch each other whatsoever.
Yeah. If they touch, they'll both go out of the race. But if they both go out of the race, Max will win. So, you know, if they touch at all, basically the cars are like carbon fiber, bro. Like they break instantly. So like it could be at the first lap because, you know, they just start from the standing still and it's all pandemonium. Like Lewis is going to want to it's going to be wild to have these incentives where like one guy if there's a crash, he wins. If he wins, he wins. Lewis has to stay clean, not get any dust ups and win, which is a lot harder. And like I said, in the last race, Max ran him off the road twice. And like, I'm sitting there in the Netherlands and all due respect to the guy, I can't say it was not in his head that if he wrecked him, if they both wrecked, it would benefit Max. So we'll see. It's Red Bull versus Mercedes. It's Max versus Lewis, and it's the title championship. So it will be wake up early on the West Coast, Jeremy, or catch it on record. I think it might be worth catching.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Here, champ, I'll probably just see the headline. Do these happen when I'm asleep? Like, what time is it even?
They usually happen
on the West Coast.
They usually happen the race. There was 3 races in Americas. There was a race in Mexico and Austin, Texas, and Brazil. Those have been convenient for you. This one, I think, will be at like 4 o'clock my time, which is like a little too early for you, like 7 a.m. your time. So, I don't think it's gonna be that sweet a time. So, wake up, check it out, see if there's drama. You know, I'm going for Lewis, no doubt. So, but you know, we'll see how it goes. Just
yeah. I'll look forward to the recap of the dynamic final race here and the Max's tactics of he scared the living crap out of Lewis and that just let him slide by the inside to win the race.
For sure. Well, look, man, great chopping it up with you. I know that the workday awaits you and the dinner awaits me. Thanks for all our supporters. We love the support. We are at LWCU Podcast on all social channels. If you're on YouTube or a podcast channel, hit like, subscribe, and so on and so forth. Jeremy, any last words to the choppers today?
As always, catch you later, choppers.